Thank you. Well, I can't start a talk about transport without talking about the games, and I think transportation around London was perceived to be a real challenge. Apart from the little blip this morning on the Central line, I think it's been a real success so far. And today's the busiest day, so with the Olympics opening, so fingers crossed as we go through. So for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk about intelligent mobility and why the time is right to help our congested networks, be they the roads, the rail, the air, or the waterways. Intelligent mobility is about the optimization of vehicle movements. The strain on UK's transportation network is estimated to cost about 12 billion a year to the economy. And to give you just one example, let's look at freight. Freight in Europe in 2009, 2.2 million ton kilometers of freight was shipped around. And about just over 75% of that was by road. Now let's visualize that. That's the equivalent of taking 1 ton of freight to the sun and back 6 times. That's a huge amount of freight. And by 2020, it's expected to increase by 50%. So Theo from Logica, for those who don't know us, we're a business and technology services firm, about 3.7 billion revenues, working globally around 41 countries. And here are some of the few accomplishments that we've done. Just to pick on one on the bottom right-hand corner there with Network Rail, where we help them invoice all the train operators that run up and down the network. And through that, they can start charging for the use of the infrastructure. Because the infrastructure charging is a trend that we're seeing going through, whether they're on the roads, on the rails. And it's starting to make better use of this finite resource that we have that is the infrastructure. And that went through, and we're now doing smart meters on the train, so they apportionate all the electricity, and we're starting to stop that getting on a train where you find the air conditioning and the heating and the lighting on and only one person in the carriage. So let's look at the problem of transportation, the congestion, pollution, environment, and the economy. One thing perhaps UKTI didn't want me to say at Britain is great is that we're great at congestion. We're actually 5th in the world in congestion of the 25 most wealthiest nations. And this is not a temporary problem. We can't just keep building more pavement to get ourselves out of that problem. We need to look at an alternative. But let's look, and perhaps one of those ones is modal shift. Let's have a look at modal shift. We can't ignore the fact that the road vehicles, whether that's cars, vans, and taxis from this graph, dominate the landscape. It actually accounts for about 90% of all the total distance travel, and this is passenger kilometers. So modal shift doesn't seem to be working. It's definitely helping, but it's not working, as you've seen from that graph. And perhaps that's due to the population. The UK ranks as the 8th most densely populated out of the 25 nations. And as you can see, the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, expect it to rise from 62.3 million people in 2010 through to 73.2 million by 2035. That's an extra 10.9 million people on our island by 2035. So change and flexibility are essential in our network. And that's one of the reasons why it makes it great to come to the UK to look at this. It's a great place for a test bed. So we look at it on the environmental side. Unfortunately, in 2010, there were 1,857 fatalities on our roads here in the UK. Very unfortunate, but it was also the lowest record since records began back in 1926. But also, we're finding that the Committee of Medical Effects on Air Pollutants have estimated that air pollution contributes to the early deaths of 200,000 people. And the UK roads account for 22% of all CO2, or transportation accounts for 22% of all CO2. So I suggest to you that we have to focus on safety, but we also need to focus on air quality. And when it comes to the economy, I've quoted some very large numbers already where we can start seeing if we can make our transportation networks more efficient, then the whole network and the knock-on effects there come through. And this is obviously one of the reasons why the government's statement of a modern transportation infrastructure is essential for a dynamic and entrepreneurial economy. In fact, the London School of Economics published a report in 2009, and they said a £5 billion investment into ITS, or intelligent mobility, would create an estimated 188,500 jobs here in the UK. So we've got those problems, and we now think about, okay, what are the options? What can we do? So we can build. We can continue to build. We can continue to promote modal shift. Or we can turn to ICT and to see where that can assist. There's no guesses what the answer is. Perhaps it should be a gold medal up there rather than option 3. But it's obviously intelligent mobility. And here in the UK, it's a natural testbed for these technologies. So the combination of our engineering, our telecommunications, our ICT skills, the fact that as a nation we're digitally literate, with all the infrastructure and all the other pieces that we've been hearing about so far today throughout this conference, you can start to see that with the challenges that we faced, it's a great place to come and invest, bring the skills use the skills that we have here to help solve these problems. Because these problems are not just unique to the UK. Everybody has to use transportation. Everybody has to travel. And we will need it now and in the future. And the problem will only get worse. So we've got the academics, we've got the companies, and to deliver these solutions. So what is intelligent mobility? It's the optimization of vehicle movements through the use of communications and location-based services. That's one example. So let me give you an example of where we're doing it. Imagine I get on I'm at a station, and I've got off a train, and that train was delayed. I'm now stood at the station, and I need to get to my next stop of my destination. I wait there. And perhaps there's a messaging board that's up there that tells me my next bus is coming along in, say, 10 minutes or so. So I've got a choice. I can either use a different mode of transport. I can get in a taxi. I might be able to walk to my destination, but let's assume for this scenario I can't. But it then combines with then a problem. I'm a dissatisfied passenger. I'm less likely to use public transport again. I'm more likely to just jump in my car because it's more convenient. But let's get me through to that destination. In a more connected world, where the train operator is talking to the bus operator, then the bus operator can be informed that actually, rather than informing to a timetable, they can slightly delay, because most of the passengers will get on that bus from that train. So you can then do that connection there. So that's great. You probably have some more satisfied passengers. But let's then think about it from the bus operator's point of view. So because you've got location-based services and ICT and communications on that bus, you can provide information to that driver that then, and because you've got predictive transportation management in place, you know how long that bus is going to take to get to that station. You can now suggest to the bus driver that they slow down. And they actually take their time to get there. So they get there just in time as the people are coming out of that station. So what does that do for the bus driver? For the bus operator? Lowers their cost because they use less fuel. They optimize the network, so you're not sending buses around all the time. They can start moving other buses that are behind it backwards slightly within the schedule, so they can optimize their asset base, so they actually need less buses. And then ultimately you use less fuel and create less emissions. So just through that simple tying up of the connection between the train operator and the bus company, you can start seeing all these benefits, the knock-on effects that are going through there. So here are a few more examples of what we can do today. So they're all here today. We can predict traffic flows through preventative measures that can be then taken. We've got managed motorways where we open up the hard shoulder and make use of that, temporarily make use of that area so we can then put more traffic onto that finite resource. We can accurately time when a parcel or delivery is going to be made down to the minute and predict that. So no longer do people have to wait in all day for that service. And then we're seeing an increase in electric vehicles coming through. There's a challenge there. Tax revenues will decrease from fuel tax with the adoption of electric vehicles. There's a challenge there for government and policymakers, I feel, and perhaps that will see more road tolling being introduced to offset that deficit. So if those technologies are here today, why aren't we using more of them? What's the challenges? So we're seeing integrated technology transport authorities looking at the whole network. We're starting to see that happening. So people are looking at the whole piece. That's good. We're seeing data opening up and more services being made available. That's great, that's happening. And one of the trends I'm seeing from a lot of the talks today is around ecosystems and business models. That, to me, at the moment, is the big challenge. If I'm an automotive manufacturer and I want to put in a solution that helps pay-as-you-drive insurance happening at point of manufacture, who am I benefiting? I'm benefiting the insurance industry, not the automotive industry. So they're paying for it, but they're not getting the benefit. So those ecosystems are very important. So machine-to-machine is very key to all this. We've seen autonomous vehicles coming through. I'm sure everybody's familiar with what Google are doing. I highly recommend you look at what Paul Newman's team at Oxford are doing. He is a very animated speaker and about his autonomous vehicle team. He claims that he has one more researcher than Google does. He's very proud about that fact. And for me, the vision of the future of transportation actually involves a lot more autonomous vehicles. And machine-to-machine is key to that. So we're seeing that automotive OEMs are starting to wake up to the potential of what we can do in machine-to-machine and connected vehicles. At the moment, most of it is either data going into the vehicle and not coming out. Most of the time, it's related to safety applications because safety sells. But as we move forward, we're going to start to understand that actually, to optimize our network, we're going to have to get more data out of those vehicles. We're going to have to know where people are traveling to so we can actually start booking people into that finite resource which is the infrastructure. And machine-to-machine is a way of doing that. Think about a vision of the future where we've got sensors, environmental sensors, and that we can do micro-routing. So if we know somebody's going from A to B, we can actually suggest to them, or through the navigation systems, take them away from a sensitive area where the emissions may have gone too high, such as around a school or a hospital. So micro-navigation becomes a reality. And also, if we look at the benefits of, from a safety point of view, in the States, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration claimed that 81% of all light vehicle crashes where drugs and alcohol were not involved could have been prevented by car-to-car communications. That's a huge safety boost that can come through by introducing this. So it's great that the automotive manufacturers are starting to look at this. And it is definitely autonomous vehicles are definitely the vision of the future. So Britain is investing in intelligent mobility. In December 2009, the Automotive Council created the report on the left, Intelligent Mobility, a National Need. And intelligent mobility is one of their 5 sticky technologies. It's one of the things that they are focusing on to make a difference because they believe that here in the UK, we've got great skills for inward investment and also for export that we can do. And it was also great to see that in the last budget, the Chancellor announced the Transport Systems Catapult. That's a huge investment, which includes 17 million from the DFT into the development of transportation systems and looking at how we can export our knowledge and create more knowledge by coming together, academics and companies such as Logica. So I leave you with one question. Is the transport industry, and by that I mean all of us, brave enough to not fully harness intelligent mobility? Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.